on 12th RCE conference, which is regional. It is Africa region. And we have a number of participants from different countries, from Uganda, from Nigeria, from other countries in Africa, which I may not be able to mention now. But the conference has gone on very well. For the first day was yesterday. We are now in the second day. The main theme of the conference is sustainable livelihoods and climate change. We are dealing with issues to do with climate change. How do we mitigate it? And how do we control issues to do with climate change so that it does not affect our livelihoods? And my colleagues will talk about livelihood issues as far as climate change is concerned. And now I wish to hand over to Professor Aburu, who will talk about wetlands. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Philip Aburu, as you've been told. And I'm a wetland specialist, and we are working on wetlands in the country as a whole. At the national level, there are different initiatives on wetlands, but I would talk about maybe what we have in the Western Kenya region, particularly in the North Rift and maybe in the Lake region. Our wetlands are really threatened, and our concern on wetlands is because of what they offer to livelihoods. Because when you talk of wetlands, that's where we get our water. When you talk of wetlands, that's where we get our fish. When you talk of wetlands, that's where we get the food that fish will eat. When you talk of wetlands, that's where we get the materials to make our baskets and even to make our fishing gears and things like that. And also when you talk of wetlands, that's where we get the materials for building our houses. And so they are countless. So the livelihoods of the communities are really linked to the wetlands. And as we have said at the beginning, is that they are endangered. At the national level, we have categorized all our wetlands, and we define them as places which are wet, either seasonally or permanently, generally with the water level that does not exceed 6 meters. And so that makes sure that all the areas with water are wetlands, be it the irrigation schemes, be it the ponds for aquaculture, be it the swamps, be it the rivers, and even the lakes, at least to the depth not more than 6 meters. Now, all these areas are the most productive areas in a water system in terms of food production, when you talk of fish, and in terms of plant production, most of which used for different aspects, and in terms of everything that also sustains the entire water body. And so since these areas are the ones that are most threatened, our main focus is that how do we protect them so that we secure the livelihoods of our people? And that is what we are doing, and that's the reason why we are crusading that the wetlands needs to be protected, because currently they are so much endangered by environmental pressures like the climate change, which is causing a lot of changes within them. And you need to know that waters, if there is just a small change of maybe 1 degree Celsius, it is so big in terms of the life in the water. And so climate change is a big issue for us in terms of climate, temperature changes, and also it's a very big issue for us in terms of reclamation or modification of those environments. Because once they are modified, the livelihoods will be killed. The organisms there will be killed, and those organisms perform very important functions in producing food for consumption. Now, let me say something briefly also as concerns the urban areas. We have very unique wetlands in urban areas. Some of them may be small water pools like you find in cities. Like in Nairobi here, we used to have several small water pools, like around where the airport is, around the Wilson Airport areas, and several areas. And in the 90s, we did a lot of research and found that there were a lot of biodiversity in those areas which needed to be conserved. Most of them we have lost because of urbanization. We also have a lot of dams and several small water bodies in the country, which are also significant for the production of food. Those ones are also, most of them, we are losing most of them. And the one that is suffering most right now is the urban streams. You go to look at Nairobi River, has a big problem. You go to Eldoret, Socioeconomic River is a problem. You go to Kakamega, the river passing through Kakamega town is a problem. Come to Kisumu town, the rivers there have a big problem. Kisii and all those areas, all the urban areas are facing that problem. And we really want to thank His Excellency the President for recognizing that there is something that needs to be done in our rivers. The researches that we have done in these urban rivers indicates very well that some of them are already dead. Because a water body, you can see the water, but then what dictates the life of the of that water is what is inside. We need to have the microorganisms needs to be there. We need to have some kind of worms. We need to have some small organisms there like phytoplankton, zooplanktons, which are food for fish. And you also need to have fish. Now, once these are not there, and also the different plants which perform different functions. So since with the high pollution, all those are lost. But the biggest danger now here is in the water towers or the small catchment areas. We have our big water towers, which you also know have problems. Go to Cherangani, go to Mount Elgon, you go to our major one, the Mau, and several other water catchment areas are facing a lot of problems. And so we really need to come up with an action so that we can address the issues of climate change and we can be able to ensure that our country, Kenya, will be able to sustain the populations that are coming. Because if we cannot preserve the wetlands, conserve the wetlands, and make sure that they are protected, then very soon we are going to face a bigger problem than even what we are seeing now with the droughts that are going on. And that is the reason why we are talking about wetland conservation, so that and our RCEs in the different regions should be able to identify the exact wetlands and the goods and services they produce, which more or less the same everywhere, so that we come up with management plans, and also those management plans be taken to the next stage of the implementation. Because right now, having the county governments and having the public participation enthroned, or rather, because when we are talking of wetlands, they are not highland. They are the terrestrial areas around them. They are the upper catchments and the lower catchments, and also the environment within those same wetlands that really needs to be protected because they are interlinked in the operations. So that is what I can say as at now. Thank you.
I'm Dr. Christopher Saina from the University of Eldoret. We are here in the 12th RCE in Kenya from the 12th RCE. We are looking at improved livelihoods through management of climate change. And I want to say that people require certain things for their day-to-day living. And those are the livelihood activities that they undertake. And you'll find that most of these are from the environment. The water, the vegetation, the food, all these are sourced from the environment. When we have climate change, the greatest impact is the environment. And therefore, this one affects food supply, shelter, and all these other activities that these people are supposed to be undertaking to ensure that their livelihoods are safe. What we have found in Kenya, and mainly these ASAL areas, is that these environmental issues are threatened, where you find that water supplies are reduced, tree growth is reduced, even grass, such that you find communities struggling to meet their daily needs. And when they reach that stage, you find there are conflicts, fighting over water, fighting over grass, and other resources. And therefore, our team here, we are trying to look at what ways Kenya can look at to ensure that we reduce these impacts of climate change. We have donors here, and we have given them our proposals. We are talking to communities. Every RCE is trying to reach out to their stakeholders, that the little things that we can do to ensure that we reduce climate change, especially the impacts of climate change. Those are the priorities that we are looking at in order to reduce the impacts on livelihoods. And you'll find that there's a cycle. Once people are not able to meet their needs, what they do is they go back to the environment to try and meet those needs, and they even destroy it further. You'll see issues like charcoal burning, clearing of forests, encroachment of wetlands, activities which are even more dangerous and contributing to climate change, such that it becomes a circle. As there is increased pressure from climate change on livelihoods, people tend to go to activities that even endanger climate change or bring about climate change more. And therefore, we are asking all partners that we work on reducing climate change impacts so that we have better livelihoods for our people in Kenya. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Dr. Mark Tui, the Dean of School of Environmental Sciences and Natural Resource Management of University of Eldoret. As my colleagues have just talked about livelihoods, I will quickly talk about socioeconomic development in relation with the environment. Now, the environment, by its very definition, then it is the sum total of all internal and external conditions that influences an organism, including ourselves. And that influence can be positive or negative, depending on how we handle the environment. Having said that, socioeconomic development, which I will break in broad categories for the sake of this talk, issues to do with income is captured under the economic component. Under the social component, we have got issues to do with health, we have got issues to do with recreation, and other needs like aesthetic values. Now, nature, which we are capturing as the environment, is able to provide for us our honest needs, but not dishonest needs. And when I say dishonest needs, I am talking about any development activity that does not take care of the environment. Our Mother Earth, which is the environment, is, by its creation, is able to satisfy our needs. However, our desires and greed have actually led to the destruction of this environment. In terms of agriculture or agricultural development provides us with our basic needs like food and fiber and the related. However, agricultural intensification and extension in terms of producing goods for the agro-based industries inevitably leads to production of wastes and toxic material. These are the ones that we must be able to manage, and I know some other people, specialists, will talk about waste management. But the production process, by using energy, inevitably releases waste into the environment. And these are the things we need to manage for us to have sustainable agricultural development. Other than agriculture, we have got mineral exploitation or exploration and exploitation, and this produces even more toxic and radioactive wastes, which are even more difficult to manage. So what I would like to say is that we need to protect the environment by restoring its integrity and its dignity so that we can be able to benefit from environmental goods and services. In the Garden of Eden, everything was perfect. But from that time, driven by greed, driven by population growth, the environment has been degraded over the years. Medicinal resources in the environment are actually adequate. And these are the things we need to manage sustainably and support so that we can have development that is eco-friendly, development that does not destroy or degrade the environment as it were. Otherwise, I want to say that the environment is very valuable. It makes their spiritual, values, there are aesthetic values, aromatic values, and physiological or livelihood values that are derived from the environment. And if we can all work together, then we can be able to secure our environment for our sustainable development now and in the future. Thank you very much.
My name is Dr. Julius Cabrono, Chairman of 12th RCE Association. First, I wanted to thank the Vice Chancellor of the University of Eldoret. I wanted to thank the DBC, Professor Philip Raburu. I want to thank Director Innovation North Rift, Professor Vincent Sudoi, also my chairman here of North Rift RCE Association. North Rift RCE Association is coverage 7 counties. From Wasingishu, Nandi, Elgeyo Marakwet, Baringo, West Pokot, and Trans Nzoia and Turkana County. North Rift RCE members, we are members of the RCE, Education for Sustainability Development North Rift. The main objective of the association is to be preservation and conservation forest and environmental. North Rift is supporting Nema and the Kenya forest. We work together with this organization for facilitate tree planting, conservation of trees, as well as restoration of lost trees. North Rift RCE educated members of community on matters of environment conservation through national shows, innovation, and village with parasas. Background. Our background from University of Eldoret, research on traditional medicine, research of importance of traditional medicine, hygienic value addition for traditional medicine, quality assurance for traditional medicine, treatment of patient at cheap price. Innovation, ways of harvesting and the drying of medicine by milling herbs, the right dosage, duration of intake, period of usage. Aims. Kenya Forest Cherangany Hills is located as 5 acres of land. We aim at planting traditional medicine. That land was proposed by the Director, Innovation, Professor Vincent Sudoi, by preserving traditional herbs, planting trees in semi-arid areas, aims at participating in the tree planting in nearby schools, plant trees at Cherangany Hills. At University of Eldoret, aim at planting 7 acres of land which the university have allocated to our members, herbalist members from 7 counties, blending of traditional herbs, aims at building a no-drift clinic to treat patients, aims of building RCE, educational sustainability and development, no drift. Aim at building traditional cultural center at Arboretum Crown from the University of Eldoret. Training and education. Aims at training herbalists and students. Educate of environmental and conservation. Continue in preserving tree at Arboretum Crown. Yeah, objective, no drift herbalist treatment. No drift herbalist, we have more experienced herbalist doctors. We treat common diseases as cancer, allergies, malaria, epilepsy, kidneys problem, pneumonia, HIV, arthritis, diabetes, ulcers, amoeba, infertility, COVID-19, with other common diseases. Capacity building. Our aim in capacity building is training on community programs, climate change, research, protection of traditional knowledge and diversity, no drift. Vision. Research of herbal medicine to help generation, planting of more indigenous trees to curb climate change as per Vision 2030. Development of cultural centers within no drift to protect cultural diversity. Conclusion. Our record in no drift herbalist in treatment. Members treatment cure 70% per year from the no drift, but attendance protect pregnancy by 65% per year. Surgeons, we have a surgeon specialist from Elgeyo Marakwet and West Pokot County. Surgeons are protecting people by 30% per year. Pregnancy, infertilities is 40% per year. Counselors, we counsel people from different problems, 55% per year. We have doctors, experts, changing from female to male, 20% per year. Also changing male to female, 10% per year. Thank you.
My name's Jonathan Otieno from Eldoret National Polytechnic and a member of the RCE North Rift. In TVET, we are looking at greening TVET for improved livelihood. So our aim in TVET is to have green skills, that students come and live with green skills. To achieve this at the National Polytechnic of Eldoret, we have 4 pillars: the green campus, the green curriculum, green culture, and green research. Under the green campus, we have endeavored to plant trees within the institution. So far, we have attained a coverage of over 5,000 trees within the institution, and we have established a nursery, tree nursery, so that we can provide trees for those in the community around the Eldoret National Polytechnic. Although within the green campus, we realized that students require space where they relax after the stressful training. And we developed a green space where students can relax and have mental well-being. We have also realized that electronics have increased due to technology. The number of mobile phones, the TV sets, computers, laptops, and many others. And we established a program of e-waste collection. Our aim is to remove the e-waste from the environment, thus protecting the environment from pollution by the heavy metals like lead that are found within the electronics. And we also realize that our students, especially those that do electronic engineering, can benefit from the dismantling of the used electronics, scavenging of parts for use in their student projects, and thereby increase knowledge within the students and the environmental conservation concepts. Once we have scavenged what we can, we proceed we created a partnership with We Center in Nairobi so that they can collect those wastes that we are unable to recycle ourselves. However, it is our plan that in future we are able to recycle and even make money out of the waste and improve the livelihood of our institution. In terms of green research, we hold an annual conference on sustainability called series, that is Competency in Research, Science and Technology for Sustainable Development. That conference is done once a year. This is where presenters from all areas, the universities and other colleges, come to present their research finding that will enable improved on sustainable development. In terms of green culture, every first week of June, we do have a cultural week where students express their cultures, and we come up with Mr. and Miss Culture of the institution. That is once a year annually at the first week of June. So all these are aimed at generating green skills so that once our graduates leave campus, they are able to join the community, and as they work, especially in the industry, because TVET graduates are technicians in industry, they can impart green skills within their place of work and hence improve the environmental conservation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Leonard Agan from the University of Eldoret, Department of Environmental Biology and Health. I want to talk shortly about youth engagement in climate action. And the key message here is that youth should get out and start working on climate-related issues, and then from there they can get support. I've been to this conference and I've been hearing youths talking about empowerment. You can only be empowered once you've started doing something. At the University of Eldoret, we have engaged young people, students, on climate-related actions, including tree planting and sensitization. And I think even right now, in the coming week, we are carrying students from the environmental faculty to Trans Nzoia to talk about climate action. We are also engaging students in competitions and also in other activities. We have undertaken several activities with the youth in the region, including planetary health. And with planetary health, we have done a lot of partnership to talk about climate change and the possible mitigation measures that are available. And our focus is to get the young people who are still energetic, who are learned, to spearhead several engagements. The last activities that I want to highlight with Planetary Health, which is an organization that is led by young people, are sensitization and workshops. We last time did a workshop on environmental conservation and the role of wetlands in climate action, and it was a successful youth-led activity. Now I want to encourage more youths to get out and start working before they seek for empowerment, and with that actually people and supporters will see what they are doing so that they can be facilitated. We have done a lot of other collaboration, including with Wetlands International, and we lead these activities to ensure that what we are talking about is actualized. We are more focused on action than promises and words. And also collaborating with Planetary Health Alliance, we have attended several meetings and we are given platform to share on what we do locally, and you can be sure that they are very much interesting. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. My name is Nyatichi Omambia from the National Environment Management Authority, Nema Kenya. It is a privilege to be here, and thank you for welcoming me to this session. The National Environment Management Authority is a state corporation of NEMA, a state corporation of government. We are established by an act of parliament, the Environmental Management and Coordination Act, with a mandate to supervise all matters related to the environment. In that aspect, as a regulator, we support government and guide government in matters related to environmental policy, and we also domesticate international environmental agreements that are made internationally, which Kenya ratifies, and we also implement them here locally. As a regulator, we implement our mandate of coordination and supervision of all matters related to on the environment through various forms. One is through environmental education, awareness, and public participation, through which this particular conference is being held here. We are a member of the International Regional, the International Convention on Education for Sustainable Development. Years back in Japan, under the United Nations University, regional centers of education were established globally to be able to domesticate the decisions that were taken during the decade of education for sustainable development. In Kenya, we have 9 regional centers of excellence, and in Africa, we have 34 networks. What are regional centers of education? This, or excellence, if we could call them. These are networks of government, tertiary institutions, stakeholders of, for example, organizations, youth organizations, community organizations, NGOs, the public, the citizenry, that are keen to conserve the environment and to mainstream sustainable development in the normal practices. Secondly, as NEMA, we also do environmental planning and research to guide the process of sustainable management of the environment. As a regulator, we are also a regulatory entity, therefore we enforce laws. First, we formulate the laws and regulations, and then we guide on compliance through compliance assistance, and finally, we also do litigation for non-compliance through prosecution, through enforcement, through monitoring, and we have very clear rules and regulations that guide the process, including what is well known, the environment and social safeguards that include environmental impact assessment, strategic environmental assessments, and the strategic environmental assessments. These are critical tools, we call them safeguards, which when well incorporated and implemented are able to conserve the environment. Further, I have mentioned that we also domesticate, or for another term I could say that we implement at the local or national level multilateral environmental agreements that include the Climate Change Convention, the Biodiversity Convention. We also do the Ramsar Convention on conservation of significant important wetlands. We also domesticate the Convention on combating desertification, among many others, including the Nagoya Protocol on access and benefit sharing, on genetic resources, among others. So in this aspect, I will talk about our RCE conference, which is being held here today. It is a 12th conference that is being held. For Africa, we have members or delegates from the African region, both physically and in hybrid mode. And the attendance is drawn from all the regional centers of excellence across Africa, both hybrid, both virtually and physically. And we are here discussing on many topics, including education for sustainable development, on livelihoods, and other aspects that relate to the environment. Just to mention some of the regional centers of excellence we have in Kenya, they are divided according to the regions. The regions, again, go along together with the the agroecological zones where they are, or the challenges that are there. We have dryland regions, we have mountainous regions, forest regions, we have coastal regions, and therefore some of the centers we have, the Greater Nairobi Regional Center of Excellence, which is hosted here at Kenyatta University. Then we have the Mount Kenya East, which is hosted by Dedan Kimathi University. We also have that which is also hosted still in the Greater Mount Kenya. We have another one which is hosted by Kenya Methodist University. We have at the coast the Regional Center of Excellence hosted by Pwani University. In the Western Belt, we have the Kakamega Western Kenya Regional Center of Excellence, which is hosted by the Masinde Muliro University. We also have others, the North Rift, who have elaborately spoken here, which covers the greater part of the North Rift Kenya, covering 5 counties, which is hosted by University of Eldoret, among others. What do these regional centers of excellence do? Not only are they the host works with the entire community and stakeholders within the community to mainstream environmental management, and to also share knowledge, exchange, and conserve significant natural resources within whatever niche they are in. More specifically, I'll talk about NEMA on what we do with regards to climate change, which is, I know that we've just come out of an international conference, the COP27 Conference of Parties held in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt. This conference brought about the entire member states across the world to Africa. Africa was hosting this conference for the 3rd time. After Nairobi in 2006, South Africa hosted in 2011, and now Egypt hosted it for the on behalf of Africa for the 3rd time in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt. The conference brought about people from all over the world, both governments and non-governmental organizations, you could call them civil society, private sector, the youth, the children. For the first time they came to the conference with a specific agenda, all aiming at addressing matters that relate to climate change. The world today is facing a triple planetary crisis: biodiversity loss, pollution, and climate change. And all these matters are interrelated. And this conference here, the RCE, serves as a platform to exchange knowledge, innovation, and best experiences on how to address all these problems and more that affect the world today. Thank you very much. Okay, I will not say they were the achievements of NEMA, but they'll be the achievements of the country. Because when we attend the conferences, we attend them as a country. Kenya is the one which is a party to the convention. The conference was led by His Excellency the President, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, His Excellency. And we also had representation from all the ministries, departments, and agencies of government. The counties came with a specific agenda to follow up on their matters, the youth, and as I've spoken. The major achievements included significantly for the African continent, including Kenya, the establishment of the Loss and Damage Fund, which as we may be aware, that Africa and most developing countries did not contribute to the problem of climate change, but are significantly and adversely affected by the impacts of climate change. In that regard, the establishment of the fund, among others, were some of the key highlights that came out of the COP. Secondly, was the commitment to the previous decisions that were taken in previous conference of parties, including COP21, which was COP26, which was held in Glasgow last year, Scotland, where parties decided that we will face down unabated coal and face out inefficient fossil fuel subsidies, which are encouraging the increase of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, leading to increasing global warming that results to climate change. Significantly also was the decision to advance the implementation of the global agenda on the global adaptation goal, Further decisions were taken on climate finance, which is critical in addressing climate change, on climate technology and transfer, on decisions were also taken with regards to environmental education and awareness under the capacity building, and a very major decision on gender and how on climate change and how it goes about. There were also law points were those that related to gender items that were not concluded into our favor, but of course, being a dialogue, it is always continuous. Those will be forwarded to the next conference of parties for further discussion, and we are ready to implement the outcomes that came. Kenya, as we may be aware, is one of the leaders in advancing adoption of alternative technologies, especially in renewable energy. Kenya is currently generating over 90% of our national grid from renewable energy, a leader in the world. Secondly, we are also, the government has taken a commitment to increase our forest cover, to manage our wetlands. A lot has been said here. And we're also implementing various projects as supported by the global funds, including the Adaptation Fund and the Green Climate Fund. Thank you. Yes, all rivers in the country, and more significantly in urban areas, are facing severe challenge. One, the increased rate of urbanization, the demand for land for alternative livelihood support systems besides the important role that they face, and also the fact that the demand for the business nature in which pollution is increasing, therefore negatively impacting even the few existing wetlands, that are affecting the health of the wetlands. What is NEMA doing? NEMA, as a regulator, we work through a multi-agency approach with all the ministries, department agencies, the water users associations, the community organized groups to conserve the wetlands through various approaches. One, we develop regulations that guide on management of wetlands, and therefore we have a wetlands regulation. Secondly, we also implement the multilateral agreement on conservation of wetlands, which is the Ramsar Convention. Thirdly, we collaborate with stakeholders in whichever catchment where a wetland exists to develop management plans for management of those wetlands, so wetland management plans. As NEMA also, in collaboration with stakeholders, we have also developed a wetland map of Kenya, or whether you could call it a wetland atlas of Kenya, which has mapped various wetlands in their categories. We have different types of wetlands, both man-made and natural, and they are also categorized also of important, significant global and regional importance, all the way to the local importance. Fourthly, as NEMA, we also are implementing both the Environment Act in terms of conservation of riparian areas. Specifically for the Greater Nairobi region, we are currently implementing the Nairobi River Regeneration Program. It's a 5-year program which was launched in NEMA in 2019 to be able to map and peg riparian zones, conserve them, and enforce the to ensure that they're sustainably managed. Further, it has been mentioned on this platform on the presidential decree to establish a Nairobi River Commission to be able to implement the conservation of Nairobi rivers. As NEMA further, we also do, the most importantly, to change attitudes and awareness. We also play the role of environmental education, awareness, and public participation, and this we do through cleanups, through campaigns for schools and other areas. We do competition to increase awareness among the schools through participating in music festivals, creative arts, essay writing, to be able to inculcate a positive nature. On the formal tertiary and the formal education, our NEMA director is a member of the is an important member of the National Education Board, where we influence the curriculum through mainstreaming environmental education into the curriculum, and that includes wetlands management through being a member of Kenya Institute of Curriculum Education, where we support the development of school curricula, including the current competency-based curriculum, which, as you may be aware, has a clear topic on environmental studies.
Due to urbanization, wetlands are quickly disappearing. Could you kindly just tell us a few things, a few measures that NEMA is taking to mitigate this?
One, to manage our wetlands within all urban areas and also the rural areas, because with the devolved system of government, even the rural areas are now highly becoming urbanized as devolution takes place. So therefore, one of the major issues, principally, collaborate with the county governments who have a very clear mandate on management of the environment in the counties, to support them in mainstreaming environment into their county integrated development plans. I would wish to say more specifically with regards to climate change, the counties are now being supported through the National Treasury and development partners to implement a program which is known as Financing for Locally Led Climate Action at the local levels up to the ward level. And this, with membership from NEMA among the stakeholders, we are supporting the counties to come up with and climate actions that address not only climate change, but all the important socioeconomic fabric of the counties. As NEMA also, we enforce where there is a contravention of the laws, and we also educate and do research with regards to the impact of encroachment on wetlands. Another significant way of and a very important one with regards to management of wetlands is enforcing of the environment and social safeguards. This I mentioned, by ensuring that environment impact assessments are done before projects are started, and then once the projects have been implemented, that they respect the riparian zones, and secondly, that they manage their waste well by containing both their solid and liquid waste, because often we find that even though a development is far away from a wetland, some unscrupulous business or domestic enterprises channel their waste untreated into the wetlands, and that significantly affects the wetlands. So the role of waste management comes into play, both solid and liquid, and of course, most importantly, enhancing awareness, because a change in attitude is all we need to sustainably manage our environment, by embracing it and knowing that the environment is all that we have, because there's nowhere else you can go to live where the environment is not there. Yes.
So what licenses does NEMA issue to make sure that they protect and preserve the environment?
Thank you very much for the question. NEMA issues various types of licenses depending on the kind of the development that is taking place. The first one, for all activities listed in the second schedule of the Environment Act, those which require environmental impact assessment or those which require strategic environmental assessment, then the first step would be, the first license would be the environmental impact assessment license. Then, depending on the activity, there will be the need for an effluent discharge license, which relates to wastewater handling. For areas that are seaward, then that development will not require that license, but the sewer management company would require the license to apply for an effluent discharge license. For waste management, for areas that are serviced, again, the service provider gets the license. For unserviced areas or for areas that the waste handler in this regard, waste management companies, there are quite many in both urban and rural areas. That includes the county governments themselves. They will require a waste transportation license, a waste disposal license, and other waste transfer. For example, if some enterprises require that they hold the waste at a particular point before moving it to another area, so they will have a transfer station. We also have waste transfer stations. We also have licenses that relate to, for example, if somebody wants to transfer materials that are controlled under the Nagoya Protocol on access and benefit sharing, under the Convention for Biodiversity, then we also have licenses with regards to that. If somebody is managing electronic waste, we also issue licenses that relate to handling of electronic waste, licenses that relate to handling any type of hazardous waste. Hazardous waste categories are diverse. There are about 6. We have those that are from hospital wastes, which are pathogenic. We also have carcinogenic waste, radioactive waste, we have electronic waste, and other types. Then further, we also have licenses that relate to laboratories and the work that they do. So we accredit laboratories and among many others. As a regulator, we have different types, and it depends on the business that one is undertaking. We also issue clearances. There are some which are not necessarily licenses, but they are approvals or authorizations. And that includes for plastic, primary packaging of plastics. As we are aware that Kenya banned usage of single-use plastics, flat bags, and carrier bags. And for those products that must be packaged in single-use plastics, we call that primary packaging. So for example, an electronic gadget, to protect the electronic gadget during shipping and handling, then we approve the first layer, that is what we call the primary packaging. We will give that company a clearance. It cannot be a license because the product is banned. You're only cleared to use the product as you seek an alternative means of packaging that still preserves the integrity of the product for usability. Thank you very much. And I think for the purposes of corporate communications, they will need the audio clip, or rather, a video clip.
Yeah.